Let's go.
Welcome to today's show. Please welcome my guest, Dr. Anika James, a native of Bronx, New York. As a leading voice in diversity, equity, equality, inclusion, and accessibility, Dr. James is committed to fostering inclusivity and empowerment in diverse communities. Her blend of academics and personal experience continues to make a profound impact on the journey toward a more equitable and inclusive society. Dr. London Thompson, a native of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, is a designer, innovator, and social change agent. He serves as adjunct faculty for various institutions of higher education while also bridging educational gaps, empowering student athletes, and addressing racial disparities in college athletics. Tonight's discussion on diversity, equity, equality, inclusion, and accessibility investigates the origins of fear and its effects on organizations, employees, and decision makers. Listeners and viewers here and at home, please welcome our host, Dr. Whitty. Hello. Welcome to Dr. Whitty Today. We have an exciting show for you, and we hope that you're tuning in. Wherever you are tuning in, just let us know, drop it in the chat, and just get ready for a power-packed show. We've got some power hitters with us tonight, and you can already see Dr. James is smiling, so she's already ready to go. We want to thank Dr. Thompson for stepping up. Many of you know that we had another guest prepared for tonight that had to get out, not back out, but basically had to take care of family situation. So he stepped in, and we're grateful to have him with us tonight. So we're going to move forward, and we're excited. So take it away, Dr. Thompson. Give our listeners something that they can be inspired as we move along tonight with this conversation.
Yes, sir. So you gave me my homework. And so yesterday I made a post on LinkedIn. I was talking about recharging. And basically, me personally, I get run down a little bit. I serve in a lot of different roles and capacities. And what I talked about yesterday was that I'm always drawn to the water. I like to go to the ocean, put my feet in the water. And what I was talking about yesterday was that the wind and the waves, they are living out their purpose perfectly. They are perfectly obedient. There's no, they're just being who they are. And I was thinking yesterday that I'm kind of on that journey myself, just finding my purpose so that I can be just like the wind and the waves. So I know that sounds kind of maybe Eastern or a little bit or whatever, but the point is that we're all made to do something. And part of this life is we're trying to find that. And it doesn't stop at any age. So even at the age I am now, I'm still searching and finding my purpose and meaning. And so that's my message for today.
All right. Great stuff. Come on, Dr. James.
Well, as you know, I'm Dr. Anika James, and I am a big proponent of narrative and understanding your narrative and what that means, what that is viewed at societal-wise, or just in the greater scope of things, right? Whether you're in work, in home, in school, how society views you is based off of the narrative that they receive, correct? So he who owns the narrative tells a story. He who owns the narrative holds the power. It's time that you start harnessing your own narrative. I'm a big proponent of that. I think that we have lost that a lot of the times in how we perform, what we do. We leave our narrative to chance. We leave our narrative to other people's interpretation of who we are, what we are, how we are. I see that within the military aspect. I see that within the corporate aspect. I see that within society. I do a lot of work outside of the military. I do a lot of work within the military, and I see that continuous, that we do not harness our own narrative. It is within our power to do so. It's something I preach to my children. It's something I preach to my peers. It's something I preach to my superiors. So I'm going to leave you with a little quote from one of my favorite authors, Dr. Seuss. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own and you know what you know. And you know after the guy who'll decide where to go. So you control who, what, and how you are perceived.
All right, great stuff,
So,
great stuff. And as you was talking, it just kind of reminded me of a quote that I came across, and I'm going to share it real quick before we move into the show. But Jim Rohn said there are two ways to face the future: with apprehension or with anticipation. So I thought that was fitting, that goes along with what you just talked about, because basically that's saying, hey, we are the ones that control the direction, the destiny, what we achieve, what we don't achieve. And so I'm just excited on tonight to talk about this and to have you guys here. So thank you once again. Let's get into the subject matter for tonight: DEEIA. What is DEEIA and why is it important? Dr. Thompson.
okay, so I'm using the short version. I'll just call it DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And later on, I have a longer explanation as to what DEI is. But in general, I see DEI as a way of raising the level of thinking of leaders and organizations in order to move them from a place of understanding their motivations and what they're thinking about, but also to understand the motivations of others, but to also take that extra step to purposely make the environment such a way that that person can thrive in that environment. So though, I think that that's kind of the heart of DEI.
Okay, Dr. James.
I'm going to piggyback off of what Dr. Thompson said. Basically, DEIA, when we're talking about DEIA, we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, right? So when we put all of that together, it's basically representing a holistic approach to creating environments that everyone, regardless of their background, their identity, their values. They feel respected, they feel accomplished, they feel needed, they feel included. That's what DEIA is really trying to do. It's putting all of these backgrounds, all of these cultures, all of these entities in one and saying, hey, look, you are included, you are needed, you are valued, and saying that you bring something to the table, right?
All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I agree with both. It's all about making people feel respected, welcome, included, having access to be able to do better, to feel like they are a part of the whole unit. So, yeah, those are good definitions of DEIA. Dr. Thompson, share with us a experience as it relates to your. It could be personal, it could be professional, but as it relates to DEIA.
Yeah, well, so first of all, I'm not going to share a woe's me experience. I'm actually going to share an experience where my own stinking thinking crept in. Um, I used to manage about 200 teachers. And so what that would mean is I interviewed a lot of teachers. Weekly, I would have new teachers coming in, doing interview, background checks, credentialing, and so on and so forth. So one day I got a resume. I called this teacher and we had an amazing conversation on the phone. She was amazing. She was great. So she was coming in to interview with me. And so she came in and I was in my office. She was out in the lobby area. And when I went out there to get her, she was a person who was in a wheelchair. Okay.
Mhm.
And this, I am ashamed to say, but it like literally caught me. And I started thinking of all the things that she couldn't do. Right. I was thinking in my mind, oh man, how are we going to find a school that she can go to? How are we going to do this? I was making her the problem. So I go back in my office and I have another person in my office, and this person is giving me the eye too, whatever, giving me the eye. And then I corrected myself. I felt that little thing on my shoulder going, London, why are you thinking this way? But it was there. My um, my stinking thinking was creeping in. But what I needed to do was I needed to problematize the schools. I need to ask questions like, why do the schools not have wheelchair access? Why aren't the aisles big enough for the teacher to get through? Why don't we have the correct accommodations for the teacher? So when I went to go place this teacher, I kind of went along kind of pushing it in that kind of way. And they were forced to follow the letter of the law in that way. But I'm mentioning this because even me, as somebody who's saying I'm pushing for diversity, equity, inclusion, I'm still dealing with my own issues with bias and the way that I see other people. So I wanted to mention that because I'm not a victim. We're in this together, and each one of us, DEI is for all of us. It's not just for people who come from um, privileged backgrounds that we can tell them how bad they're doing. It's for all of us so that we can understand how we can communicate and treat other people with a sense of humanity and deal with our own inner issues as we go about our work. There you go.
Wow, I'm glad that you mentioned that great self-awareness because
Yes.
many times we don't recognize our own biases um, until such a thing happens or until it affects us personally. And then we realize the importance of having that accessibility. If we are either we are in a wheelchair or we have a family member that has a wheelchair, we don't recognize it. That it's important that these things be made available to us. So it's great self-awareness, and it's great that we
And
can acknowledge
let
our
me
own
mention this.
bias and then be
Let me
willing
mention
to
this.
go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of people don't really see disability as a DEI issue.
Right.
You know, every one of us at some point in our lives will be disabled.
Yes.
Doesn't matter, you know, at some point it's coming. So disability is a DEI issue, but the focus tends to be on race. But there are many other issues that are important with DEI. So when you take out DEI, you're affecting a lot of other critical issues that happen within our society in the places that we work and things like that.
Right. Great point. You're right. It's the moment you mention DEI, the first thing that normally comes up is race. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this show tonight, is so that everybody can understand that DEI is more than just, my race or ethnicity. It goes further than that. And so I'm glad you brought that out, but we'll get more into that as we move on. Dr. James, you're up next.
I loved what you just said, Dr. Thompson. And when we're looking at disability, it could be more than just physical. It could be cultural. It could be, language barriers. At some point in time, we're all going to find ourselves in a situation where we have a disability or a handicap in a situation, right? Whether we're just in a space that doesn't speak to us culturally, uh, by our ethnicity, by our race, by our sex, by our gender, there's going to be something that's going to put us in a position where we feel out of place. I think, like you, it's not so much a woe is me story, but the thing that made me or shaped my journey with the EIA was basically, if I can put it in a nutshell, I'm a black bisexual woman, a mother, a junior enlisted sailor with a PhD, you know, and I joined the military at the age of 39. So I was an older sailor to boot. So significant moments that stand out to me occurred like early in my Navy career when I was encountering resistance from shipmates who struggled to navigate my working environment, and my relationship due to my age, my educational background. It just didn't sit well with them. The fact that I had a whole career prior to joining the Navy, they didn't know how to navigate that system. So, despite my qualifications and my dedication to the shared mission, I found myself being faced with this bias and microaggression that made it challenging to, balance our interactions. And it was deeply impactful for me. Like on a professional level, it forced me to confront realities of systematic barriers, prejudices that existed within the institution. The military is a very male dominated society, and we tend to have a hard time navigating that just as women. Add to it that you are already a minority within a minority. I'm that way three times over. So it became a very hard tightrope to walk, shall we say, for most people in my position. I think that my age, instead of working as a hindrance, it worked as a blessing because I was able to differentiate that, hey, this is not a personal thing. It's more of a I don't know how to deal with this type of thing. So I had to strive for that unity, that cohesion. And it served as a catalyst for me to advocate more passionately for DEIA, you know? So through perseverance and resilience, we've gotten to the point where now we can have open discussions. We can talk about the things that make us different. And instead of looking at it as a negative, we can now gear it towards the positive to say, okay, let's figure out how this can work to better our end goal.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, when you think about DEIA, talk to us about some initiatives that you may have taken on yourself uh, in your own profession. Either one of you can take that first.
So I work I'm a professor of educational leadership, and I actually teach a DEI class, diversity, equity, inclusion in education, in the system of education. So I kind of see that as my field of advocacy. I found that one of the hardest things, I look at it a little differently than a lot of people because the students really want to know what it is, right? And actually, how uh, how do you do it practically? You know what I mean? A lot of times you spend a lot of time doing seminars on bias training or different things like that. But from an academic side, uh, the students really want to know what DEI is and actually what DEI isn't. So I spent a lot of time explaining that first. And so I wanted to mention some things. First, I wanted to mention some things about DEI in education that a lot of people don't think about as DEI initiatives. Uh, Title IX is a DEI initiative, right, which prohibits sex discrimination in any education program, right, or that's actively receiving federal or financial assistance. You have veteran services. That's DEI, right? You have student athlete academic support services programs. That's DEI. You also have ways of thinking. A lot of the ways that we're teaching our students in the business school about uh, ways of thinking, like asset-based ways of thinking, right? Focusing on the strengths of diverse groups, or cultural competency, right? In business, if I'm a business guy, I want to know what colors to wear to the meeting if I'm going to China. Is it okay for me to wear a red tie or not? These are things that we're teaching in the business schools. These are all DEI initiatives. And then another one is self-reflection, looking at yourself. I spend the majority of my time teaching doctoral students. I have 36 doctoral students that I work with. We're just starting a new quarter today. And I see that as my sort of, I guess, my initiative that I'm working on now, and my struggle to explain what DEI is. Because a lot of times when they tell their friends, hey, I'm taking this class on DEI, people just hang up the phone right away. But if people understand how they're actually benefiting from DEI already, sometimes they may stop to listen. So I would say that's my thing that I'm working on right now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. James.
Yes, yes. And I wanna speak to. First, I'm going to answer your question, then I'm going to speak to the audience member there, because it goes hand in hand. But I've been working and collaborating in the DEIA initiative for quite some time now, even before it became a thing. My prior work experience before joining the Navy was with the United Nations, where diversity, inclusion, accessibility were major factors, right? We were dealing with people from cross cultural experiences, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different sexual orientation. This was DEIA before DEIA was DEIA. And so my involvement in it, like I said, spans over probably 15 years now. And it's something that's driven me to look into it more and more. The more I see that things like what Nadia James is talking about, the comments made by our political leaders saying that accents of any kind seem to be an issue when English is the primary language for most of these countries. But because there's a slight accent, you're faced with the issue of, hey, I pick up a phone and I'm doing telemarketing, and you have somebody on the other end saying, I need to speak to someone who speaks English, and it is a disheartening thing, because here I am, diversifying your organization, and because I have an accent of sort, you don't look at me like you would someone who has a Chicago slang or a New York twang or a Texan Southern drawl. That is what you deem to be proper American, and anything outside of that kind of pulls from that diversity, kind of pulls from that inclusion. And here we go with trying to figure out how we navigate that situation. So you, Dr. Thompson, you're doing it on the educational level. And I think that's a huge proponent that needs to be pushed more and more every day, because we have to start younger, right? Because that's going to be the next generation. That's going to be the ones that's going to carry the torch and change things. We're trying to fix. They will change. They will enact that change. They will create new laws, new platforms, new abilities, where we are trying to fix what was already broken, right? They will be the builders of something different, something new. So it is important that we teach that at an early stage. Whereas I focus more on bringing those initiatives to corporate settings. I bring those initiatives to platforms within my own setting. Like I said, being military, I try to bring that to teachings, to the platforms within where I am, because the military, we still need that, right? Diversity and inclusion is not wasted on us. We're still changing our perspective on a lot of things, because it is a organization that's deep rooted in tradition. It's steeped in old world traditions. So a lot of the thought processes, a lot of the comments you'll hear, a lot of the behaviors are still very much the old way of thinking. Now, with that being said, you do see a shift. You see that it's starting to change, starting to diversify, starting to grow with the whole DEIA initiative, right? Because the kids are changing, right? You have a new crop of kids coming in, and they don't think like we think. So you have to move with the times. You have to change. You have to grow, or you're going to lose what you have.
Great, great. What do you think is missing? And what I mean is when we talk about the different perspectives that different people have, and then you think about how there are people that would like to see DEIA go away. What do you think is missing, if you will, for so far as whether or not people grasp the understanding, or how certain people they're welcoming of it, and then others are no, let's get rid of it. What do you think is missing in our perspective or mindset or heart or mind? What do you think may be missing?
I think we have generally a nation, or there's a large swath of our generations that hasn't done any self-reflection. So if you've never taken any time in your educational journey to actually look at yourself and think about, you know, your flaws, things you need to work on, then you obviously don't feel that you are doing anything to cause anyone else any harm. And so someone comes at you talking about diversity and equity and inclusion, and then starts saying, well, you do realize because you are a man, you have privilege. And then you might be like, no, you don't say. You know what I mean? So it's these little pinpricks, and some people have never been challenged in that way, and they can't handle the pinprick. And I think that that's why it's important. Uh, I, I don't want to go on too long, but I do believe that the issue really stems from our education system. Um, when our kids are in preschool, we're 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 really high on social and emotional, development. They go into elementary school, it's like social emotional development, social emotional learning. Got to get that going. Then they get into high school, social emotional learning. Oh, we got to get that going. We want our kids to be social and emotional and connecting with their friends. And then all of a sudden, they get out of high school and they go to college. And then when they go to college, we tell them something totally different. It's go get the money, uh, how many hours can you fit in a day? Pay them as little as possible to get the most return back. Then you start picking sides. You got the employee and the leadership. And by the time you get to your master's degree, now you're getting a master's degree. Now they're teaching you organizational behavior, how to manipulate people, how to do all these different things. And you don't hear about anything about looking at yourself until your doctorate. And unfortunately, most people don't get their doctorate, so they never actually get a chance to actually take some time to look at themselves and go, oh yeah, I got some work to do before I go hurt somebody in my job. And what DEI is doing is pulling down a doctoral level of thinking and bringing that to regular folk. That it's bringing down a higher level of thinking. The highest level of thinking is to be an empathetic thinker, to be able to think about what someone else is thinking and how they're feeling, and then be able to take that extra step to help them to thrive. You're like everybody's coach. And that's what DEI is doing, is bringing down a doctoral level of thinking. And some people are just not willing to rise to that level, because first they have to go through looking at the lens of themselves first. And that's a painful lens. So that's what I think is wrong.
Thank you, Dr.
But just to
Thompson.
piggy,
As you were talking, it just started to make me think of how I have fallen in love with the term cultural humility versus saying culturally competent, because uh, cultural competence is like saying, okay, I've been there, I've done that, I got the t-shirt, I've got the certificate, I've got the degree. There's nothing else that you can tell me about what there is to know about being culturally competent. And so, but cultural humility says that no, there's no arrival state, there's no I made it state. This is a lifelong process that I'm never going to know everything there is to know about someone else's culture, not even my own. So I'm always, as you said, I'm saying I'm being self-aware of what I know. And I'm also willing to be culturally humble, is saying that I'm willing to learn about another person. I'm willing to put aside my own thoughts or my what I thought I knew, and to say, okay, I'm interested in what you the aspects of your culture that are important to you, not just what I find important or how I can benefit. And so I like how you brought that out. Basically, the awareness aspect of it, and just being able to say, okay, recognize that DEIA is very confronting, and I think that's where we get all of these different perspectives, and where we get all this offense coming in, is because DEIA is making us take a look in the mirror, if you will, and say, wait a minute, this is what I was thinking, and maybe perhaps it's not that way, or maybe I should start to adapt to certain things. And quite frankly, a lot of people don't want to do that. We tend to be stuck in our own thoughts, stuck in our own way. And so, as you guys pointed out earlier, DEIA is not just about race or ethnicity, but it's about a whole lot of different aspects of one's
Right.
culture. Um, and then not just culture, but various other things, as you guys pointed out. So it could be dance, it could be, religion, it just various aspects of knowing one another. And so we have to be open minded, we have to be self aware, and we have to be humble. And I think for me, I think that humility piece is missing. So, but I'm going to slow up here and I'm going to let you jump in, Dr. James.
Well, I do think that both of you are making an interesting point, and we keep going back to it. Self-awareness. That is a huge problem. Like you said, Dr. Leonard, Dr. Thompson, we teach this to our younger generation. We teach this to the children as they're coming up. Social awareness, self-awareness, be cognitive of what's going on around you, be cognitive of others. Um, Look, be empathetic, right? We teach this. We want them to be concerned. We want them to, because it promotes great sociability, right? If you are self-aware, you know what's going on everywhere you look. The problem comes in when we get to that, like you said, collegiate level, because now I'm not teaching you that. Now I want you to look out for self, not be aware of yourself, but look out for self. And that becomes, you go from being self-aware to being selfish, right? And now I don't think about how my actions may affect someone else. What I think about is I need to reach my end goal, however that looks. I need to reach my end goal. And we forget that in doing that, we're starting to step on those around us. We're starting to forget that, hey, listen, it was these diversities that helped you to reach your end goal. Hence, we have people like Clarence Thomas, you know, um, who basically said, to hell with affirmative action. But affirmative action is what got you to where you needed to be, right? So how quickly we forget that the same DEIA that propelled you into the ranks of where you needed to be, you now dismiss with carelessness and naivety, right? And this is where the problem comes in. So then we have to now turn around when years later, now we're up in those upper management and we're like, oh, what's going on in the lower levels? No, we have to start teaching emotional intelligence, and we have to start teaching about toxic leadership and how that now affects those subordinates, because we forgot along the lines of how we can implement DEIA in our everyday life. How can we make sure that we're continuing this? We forgot about that. And so now you found a lack of retention. You found more and more complaints about toxic leadership. You found more and more complaints about a lack of diversity, a lack of inclusion, a lack of accessibility, because we promoted this selfish behavior. We applauded it. We awarded it. We promoted it. And now, once it became a problem, now we want to implement different programs that just don't make sense to the general population, because this goes against everything that you're telling me makes me a rock star in your organization. You see what I'm saying? We're confusing the masses. So we have to go back to square one, which is why I find a problem when you have people in the news saying now, no, take it out of the schools, take it out of the workplace. You're finding DEIA professionals being fired. You saw that you needed it in your workplace. You hired them for that situation. And the minute that they pointed out, hey, look, you have this problem, that problem, this problem, that problem, this problem, and this is the greater problem it's going to cause, it was like, oh, no, no, no. We were better when we didn't know. We were better when we didn't know. And so you're going to constantly have that toxic leadership, that toxicity within your workplace if we decide that we're going to take this out. There's a reason why we have to implement these things. There's a reason why we have to continue it in the school systems. There's a reason why we have to continue to put the work in.
The simplest is that DEI is social emotional learning for adults. That's all it is. It's teaching adults, it's teaching human beings how to play nice together. You're all in the same building together. How do you play nice? And it's sad that we have to do that. But really, we are back to the basics. And I just feel like it's like you're trying to unlearn a religion because you've been taught that you climb over, you go under, you power through, you focus on yourself. That's how you win. You never taught that you win by helping somebody else win. That's not winning. If you're not first, you're last, So I think that's a funny way that I always frame it. It's just that it's social, emotional learning for adults.
Great stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, we are burning rubber. We are burning rubber. And I hope that those of you that are viewing, those that are listening, I hope that you guys are getting something from this conversation tonight. I'm going to ask those that are backstage. I see Kelly, I see Miss Joseph, I see Kwame. I'm going to ask you guys to think about something that you might want to ask one of the panelists or something that you might want to contribute to the conversation. And if you want to come up after first, we're going to take a break. Once we come back from the break, I'm going to give you guys a chance to come up on stage to ask a question or make a relevant comment. So if you guys would like to do that, I'm just going to ask you to say something in the chat, as well as make sure that when I say I'm going to pull you up on the stage, that you have your camera and your audio ready so that we can keep things moving. So we're going to take a pause right here, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. As a leader, have you ever felt like a square peg being forced into a round leadership hole? Have you ever felt the added weight that comes with being a black man in leadership spaces where you're often misunderstood, minimized, or tokenized? Have you ever felt like you couldn't find your leadership sweet spot? Dr. Ian felt this way for much of his career. Eventually, he realized that black men needed a leadership framework developed by someone who looked like them and had walked a similar leadership path. King, the 4-part leadership framework, is designed to speak to the needs of the black male leader as he continues to evolve into the leader he is destined to become. The King Leadership Framework helps black men walk in their true leadership purpose and is grounded in 4 fundamental principles: know the king within, inspire greatness in others for collective impact, navigate north, and gravitate to great. Departing from King, you will possess a deeper self-awareness and a defined purpose. You will recognize and challenge the mindsets and behaviors that limit you and pledge to strategic actions that will propel you towards your optimal leadership potential. With engaging personal narratives, case studies, thought-provoking reflection questions, and suggested King moves, Dr. Buchanan will motivate you towards transformative actions and crucial shifts in mindset. You can take advantage of your copy of King, the 4-part leadership framework for black men, at www.drwhitty.org while supplies last. Dr. Candicia Randolph's book, The Black American Church, Leadership Dispensation and Challenges, critically examines leadership within the black church, drawing from historical and anthropological perspectives. It identifies challenges faced by this vital institution in the Black American community and proposes practical solutions. The church's impact on Black culture and leadership is explored, emphasizing its historical context and influence over nearly 5 centuries. Through research and data, the manuscript aims to enhance the church's effectiveness and cultural relevance. Get your copy where books are sold today. All right. So, these are the books right here. I have my copy. I read this one already. I don't know if you can see it, but this is an awesome book right here. King, K-I-N-G. This is awesome. I'm still reading it. And I also have Dr. Candicia Randolph's book right here. You can get it hard copy or soft copy. But I don't just have them on my website. These are in my library as well. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to present that as well. Back to the conversation, I'm going to ask if anyone that is backstage would like to be pulled up, would like to ask a question to Dr. James or Dr. Thompson, to let me know, and I will bring you up on the stage so that you can ask your question or make a relative comment. Take your time and we will continue the conversation. Dr. Thompson, I think you had something that you wanted to bring out. So go ahead, if you will.
I didn't say anything. What I do?
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. My mistake. I thought I was looking at you. It looked like you were about to say something.
I want to talk to Dr. James. I've done too much talking already.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to try to bring up a video and I'm going to play a little snippet. Hopefully everything works out. And I just want to see if I can get your feedback on this particular video. So give me 1 second here. And
We actually do have a audience member that has a comment as well, Dr. Whitty.
Okay, which one is it? Which
Johnny.
one is it?
Johnny. Be Dr. Charles.
Dr. Charles.
Oh, okay. All right. So Dr. Charles, give us 1 second. I'm going to play the video and then I'm going to bring you on stage. All right, looks like we're having.
Yeah, you have to set it to
There's
share
no volume
video.
on the video.
Yeah. But we know what you're sharing right now.
Can you hear it?
We can't hear it, but we know who this is. We know exactly what he's saying.
You have to actually set it to share video.
Okay, my bad. Patience. Work with us, y'all. Work with us.
And Trevor Mayo, I definitely agree. We are more geared in this society with profits than people.
Let's try this again.
DEI in this case stands for divisive, erroneous, and insidious.
DEI, which stands for
discrimination,
exclusion. But here's the part where you all stop applauding everything I say.
Oh, we can hear it.
DEI, although it's well-intentioned, it's mostly garbage. Okay, it's kind of like the Black Little Mermaid. Just because racists hate it doesn't mean it's good. And you know I'm right, because every one of you has sat through one of those diversity training sessions and thought, this is some bullshit. And it's not just you. Over 900 studies have shown that DEI programs don't make the workplace better for minorities. In fact, it can actually make things worse because of the backlash effect. Remember D.E.E.I.A from school? Y'all remember D.E.E.I.A? Yeah. She said, woo. DEI training is like D.E.E.I for racism. And you all know how effective that was. I was sitting there going, oh shit, there's a ton of fun drugs I should try. I didn't even know about Molly. Thanks, Officer John.
Wow.
All right.
Just wow.
So what about that? Dr. Thompson, you take it first.
I don't really have a comment for. I think he was joking around. I think that somebody wrote that for him. I think that was a skit, and I thought it was a little bit funny, a little bit. But at the same time, I could just say it just goes to show that kind of makes my point that really DEI is for all of us. You know, a guy like him, he should understand the historical aspects of where he resides in society, and that he's in a position of privilege. You know, most people are not in his position, so he has a microphone, and he should be using that microphone, not necessarily to get on there and say things that he doesn't believe, but he should know that when he makes jokes or makes funny things, that he's not going to get invited to the cookout. So I feel like it was just kind of ignorant. Somebody put him up to that. I don't feel like offended by it at all. I feel like we need to have these frank conversations about how do people really feel about diversity training and all those things. Because I feel the same way about those trainings. I think in many ways they are a waste of time because, like I said earlier, we're not getting down to the point. We're making it sort of a punch the clock thing. We're saying, look, you have to have 8 hours of diversity training every year, or else, you know, you get something happens to you. So people are being forced to do this, and so it's just a performative thing. I think that we should avoid doing performative things and anything that's performative in the work environment. So I agree with some of the stuff he had to say, but I also disagree with the fact that he would get on there and let somebody write some jokes about something that's as serious as diversity, equity, and inclusion. So.
All right. We have a guest, and I don't know if he can hear me or not. Can you hear me? Is it Kwame?
Wait, am I the guest?
Yes, you are. You are on.
Oh
You are
man.
on. Welcome to the platform.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I mean, I don't have much to say. I've watched few of these before, and I was just, grateful for the amount of information you guys put out, the training, education, and things of that nature. Today topic is great. I think this come, Dr. James already know that these type of topics. I'm always almost it. I mean, always excited to learn more about leadership, in particular when it comes to diversity and in the workplace, things like that. So I'm grateful. I don't have much to say. I just want to learn more from you guys and invite it again next time. But first name is Kwame, last name Tuji. Second class in the United States Navy. Originally born in Africa, raised, and then moved across the world to finally end up in the United States. I came here in 2013, and it's been different ever since. So I was telling Dr. James the other day that one of the things that you get to the moment you start traveling the world is how that changes your perspective and your opinion on certain things. I've seen it, post in the military, but one thing that affected me in particular was the fact that you don't feel completely at home, while you somewhere else in the world. when you go back to your home, like for me, Africa, for example.
We lost him.
Oh, we lost him.
Yeah, we lost him.
We lost them,
When he
but
comes back,
if I could
We had
piggyback
another guy.
off of what, sorry, if I could piggyback off of
go
what
ahead.
Kwame Tuji was saying, we've had conversations in the past, and like you were saying, Dr. Thompson, the check in the box thing, just doing it to do it. One of the things he and I have talked about is that difference when you're traveling, when you're experiencing things outside of your normal culture. I think the reason, like you said earlier, when you surpass that level of collegiate education and you go on to master's level, doctoral levels, your mind frame starts to open up, your viewpoint starts to open up. Not everybody gets a doctoral degree, so they don't have that experience. Not everybody gets to be well versed in traveling, so they don't have that experience. What's the one thing that as a youth people try to tell you? Hey, the more traveled you are, the more your viewpoints are going to change. I'm in the Navy, as you now probably have figured out. One of the slogans we have is join the Navy, see the world, right? Because your viewpoints are going to change, right? So, yes, there is a certain monotony to these trainings because not everybody can travel. Not everybody can go beyond that collegiate degree. Hell, not everybody's going to make it to the collegiate degree. So I have to give you these trainings because that's the best I can do to show you that there's more out there than just what you're doing. But the trainings only go but so far. Until you experience it, it does seem like just a check in the box, just something to do.
Okay, great. I think we got you back, Kwame. We want you to finish what you were
Yes, sir.
saying.
Yes, sir. No, I think Dr. James is absolutely right. That's where I was going with all these detour. But I'm grateful to be here. I would love to be invited again and just learn more about the different topics that you guys discuss here. So I'll let you get back to it, and thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah, I wanted to respond to Trevor Mayo. And Trevor
All
is
right,
he has a
thank you.
he has a distinction of being my cousin. And I love him with all my dear heart. So I want to respond to him. I want to give an example of how DEI influences leadership and how you actually can do better and be more innovative. And because of innovation, you actually do make more money. So I'm a football coach and I have a staff of coaches. And when I'm working with my coaches, I have different levels of thinking, right? I'm in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about where everybody's at and how I can place them in positions to where they feel the most confident and to take them, not put them in situations where where they don't feel good about it. Right. So that means there has to be open communication. There has to be a place of safety where someone can tell me, a player maybe, coach, I don't feel good about this, but I want to do that. Right. I also want to give my coaches authority, make them feel like they have authority over their area, what they're supposed to do. I'm not going to micromanage them. I'm going to distribute the leadership. That's DEI. I'm distributing the leadership. I'm distributing the power. I'm, instead of consolidating the power on myself and making all the decisions and tiring myself out and forgetting about whether there's 11 guys on the field or 12 guys on the field, I'm I'm sending the leadership out and I'm trusting each person to do the job that they were hired to do, right? And when we do that, what happens? Each of those people who feel like they have agency over what they're doing, they are more excited and more innovative in their actions, right? Which then communicates to the players, right? Because now that person appears to be more confident in what they're doing, which builds confidence from the players. And now we can go win a game together. And then I get the credit for it, even though I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. All I did was give them authority to do it. and they went and won it, and then I get the credit for it. You see what I'm saying? And that's how in business, Elon Musk is getting credit for what he's put other people over to do. I believe he's successful because he does know how to distribute leadership. He's not trying to do it all himself. He's not trying to be the strong man. I know everything. He's trying to surround himself with smart people and then distribute the leadership. I believe that he's doing that. Even if he can talk one way, but when it comes to work, he's doing DEI all day long. He's trying to find the right person. He's going to go to India, wherever it is, to find that right person. He's not concerned about anything else except for, I'm gonna get this person in. I'm gonna give them authority over what they need to do. I'm gonna make them feel like they belong. I'm gonna give them their feeling of belonging, give them agency over their job so they can have that excitement about their work, so that we can be innovative, so that we continue to press forward and we equals more money. So that's an example how DEI does generate more wealth, and it's good for the economy. I'm going to give you one example of how DEI, not doing DEI, affects our economy. In my class, I teach about how the exclusion of disabled individuals in our economy, we lose 29% of our productivity annually. You can search that up on the internet. We lose 29% of our economy because of excluding disabled people, meaning they could be in the workforce working, but they're not. You can take any other identity and put that in there. If you go to certain countries, they exclude women. 50% of the population is excluded from working. What is that doing to the economy if 50% of the people are not able to work? When you exclude people, it affects the whole economy. It doesn't just affect the local economy, it affects everybody. So inclusion is better for everybody. So I'll just leave it at that.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Dr. James.
I agree with you, Dr. Thompson. And here's my spin on that. And I'm going to go back to addressing Dr. Charles as I talk about this. A good leader, a great leader, a phenomenal leader understands that, hey, listen, when my team succeeds, I'm already a success. I don't have to do more than my team. I need to be that pillar for my team so that they can be successful. And in them being successful, we're all successful now, right? Because of the trickle down effect. Like they like to say, ish runs downhill, right? So the same way in the negative connotation, it goes backwards. It's the same thing in the positive. If your team from the lowest level on up is succeeding, guess what that looks like for the leader on the top? Bravo. Bravo, Zulu. You've done an excellent job. Your leadership has manifested itself in a way that your whole team has now escalated. But that comes back down to fear, like Dr. Charles pointed out in his comment, right? Fear is the death to everything DEIA. If I'm afraid of it, I cannot conquer it, right? And when we're talking about fear, there's many acronyms that you can use. There's two that I like to use in particular and that I relate to my junior sailors and that I've related to my subordinates when I was in the corporate environment. Also that I relate to my children and the children that I mentor. You can either face everything and rise, or you can forget everything and run. I choose to do the former rather than the latter. You face everything and rise. And instead of letting fear hold you back, you use it as a catalyst for growth and resilience. You embrace challenges head on and use them as opportunities to overcome obstacles and reach new heights. If you can do that, then there's no need to fear diversity inclusion. There's no need for that. Because instead of looking at this person as, oh my God, what if? Oh my gosh, what if I give them this opportunity? What if I allow them into this space? Instead of doing that and saying, well, what if? What if we allow them into this opportunity? What if we allow them into this space? The growth and development that we can have. Do you see how different those what if sounds? One looks at it as a negative. The other takes that same negative and builds it as a positive. And that's the leadership we have. That's the leadership we need. This is where we're trying to get to. Take that what if, and instead of using it as a fear and imposing that fear mongering mentality onto your other subordinates, onto your colleagues, onto your partners, into your work environment, creating a level of toxicity that just permeates throughout the work environment. And then it becomes a cancer. Let's take that what if and make it a positive and say, you know what? I want more of that coming in. I want more of these younger people coming in with these diverse ideas. I want people coming in from abroad with these diverse ideas. Let's grow in population. Let's try that because it's something that we've never tried before. Let's bring in, those with physical, mental, emotional, whatever the case may be, disabilities that can help. Hey, put us in a different headspace and say, how can we look at this going forward? Because they may bring something to the table that you never even knew you needed. But we still have to be open. The first step is we have to be open to change. And as humans, it's a hard pill to swallow, and it's a deep hurdle to get over.
All right. With that, we'll be right back. Join us as we host Dr. Ian Buchanan, a native of East St. Louis, Illinois. As the CEO of the D.E.E.I.A Education Group, Dr. Buchanan is deeply committed to servant leadership and addressing inequities. His best-selling book, King, a 4-part leadership framework for Black men, is making waves in the leadership community. His extensive experience spans teaching, school leadership, and advocacy. Tune in to DrWhitty Today to hear Dr. Buchanan's insights on leadership, equity, and empowerment. All right. So, all great comments. We're getting great feedback. I'm so glad that you guys are out there viewing and listening. Keep the comments coming. If you have a question, once again, go ahead and let us know so that we can invite you to the stage and one of our panelists can address your question, or you can share a relevant comment. As you were talking, Dr. James, it kind of made me think, and I want to say it was Maya Angelou who said it, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I think she said, legacy is not about what we leave behind, but who we leave behind. And so that came to mind as you were talking about the different leaders that feel like they have to do everything, or everything is about them and about what they can gain. And so, but I agree that we have to take on that mindset that, hey, if I'm the leader and we're winning, we're all winning. It's not just about me. And in fact, it made me think about years ago, one job that I had. I was a security officer at a plant in Baltimore, and one day our supervisor had gotten an award for, I can't remember exactly what the award was about, but he had gotten an award, and one of the employees had gotten upset about the fact that the supervisor was rewarded, but she felt as if she should have been rewarded. And so I don't really know what the conversation was, but what ended up happening was the supervisor had came to me and talked to me about the incident, and he wanted my perspective. So when he asked me how did I feel about him receiving the award, I said, well, it doesn't bother me, because when you receive the award, I feel like I received the award. I realize that you may not have physically done what the reward might be saying, but because somebody recognized it and they recognize you, I equate that to be a reflection of my work, or you wouldn't have gotten the award. So I think it's all about perspective.
I want the money, actually.
So I've got something I want to pull up, and I want to get you guys' feedback on what I want to pull up real quick. You guys have to let me know if you see this or not.
We see it.
I think something is not quite right. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Can you see that?
Barely. It's very small.
You didn't open it. I can see your menu bar.
You can't see it. I'm just
Yeah, I
having
can see
all
it.
kinds.
You open something.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that you can sort of see the picture on the right. I thought that
Okay.
I'm not really. I had it earlier, but oh well. I'll keep trying, and
Okay.
then eventually,
Right.
hopefully
That's
I'll
the
get it.
that's the equity photo, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what you wanted to do? Comment on that?
Give me one second. Yeah, I wanna get your perspective on it, and it's really funny because I think I pulled it up yesterday, but for some reason it's not working with me here.
It's not coming
So
up again.
I'll get better. I'll get better. I promise. Anyway, I'm gonna bring it up. What I want to show is a lot of people get confused about what is equity, what is equality, what is inclusion, what is accessibility, and so I want to bring that up to kind of get you guys' perspective on it, and then try to help us all understand the difference between all those terms.
Okay.
So as I work on it, Dr. James, I'm going to let you go ahead and
Okay.
tell us something more about DEIA.
No problem. When we're looking at DEIA and we want to break down what each of these things are, basically diversity is it encompasses basically the unique differences and similarities that exist amongst individuals, whether it be race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, age, ability, religion, socioeconomic status, and a plethora of other things, right? It's not just about a representation, but also about embracing the richness that comes from diverse perspective, experiences, and even ideas. And then when you go to equity now, equity focuses on ensuring fairness, justice, by identifying and addressing systematic barriers that hinder the full perspective and advancement of marginalized groups, right? It recognizes that achieving equality may require different strategies for individuals facing different challenges. So that's the difference when you're talking about diversity and equity. And when you get to inclusion now, inclusion involves actively fostering environments where everyone feels welcome. So now you're talking about the place, right? It talks about feeling welcome, feeling heard, empowered to contribute their own unique talents and perspectives. It goes beyond just mere tolerances of creating spaces where diversity is celebrated. It's a place where individuals can thrive authentically, right, and be themselves. Lastly, we want to talk about accessibility. And accessibility basically is about removing physical, social, attitudinal barriers that prevent full participation and engagement for people with disabilities, going to what Dr. Thompson talks about a lot. It involves designing inclusive practices, policies, environments that accommodate diverse needs and ensure access for all people. So that's basically the breakdown of how you can make it the greater scope, fit everybody inside of this, and say, well, how does this relate to me? How do I fit in this narrative of DEIA? And that's the basic scope of it. This is what it is. So simply put, when you're looking at DEIA, it's essential. It's essential for fostering innovation, for driving business success, for building more than just an equitable society. It embraces everything. Diversity and inclusion leads to better decision making. It leads to increased creativity. It leads to improved problem solving by leveraging diversity, perspectives, and talents to all individuals. And that's how I would put DEIA in a nutshell.
Yeah, I got a little
Can you
comment.
see that? Can
Yeah,
you
I can
see that?
Yes, that looks a little better. Yeah, I can
So
see
go
that.
ahead, Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, so I guess if I was going to frame this for my class to describe diversity, equity, inclusion, I would take it from like, let's say I was starting a business. Diversity is why when you walk into a supermarket, they might have a brand, but there's different flavors. Because whoever designed that product knew that, well, this store is in the Filipino area, and we know that they like this flavor here. So we want to make sure that we ship that there. But when we go to this supermarket over here, we know that there's not that many over there. But we know they like this flavor. Marketing people are thinking about diversity, equity, inclusion all the time because they're thinking about, why would I want to waste my money trying to ship a product somewhere? I want to send the product to where people want it the most, right? It's a diversity not only of, skin color, your cultures and all that, but it's also a diversity of ideas. How would you know as a business that this flavor of product would need to be in this area? There may be somebody in your sitting at your table when you guys are planning your marketing strategy that's from that community, right? I have a student in my class. She works at the Red Cross. She's a big wig at the Red Cross. And she gave me an example of how we think in our Western mind. Okay, so there was a famine going on. And in our Western minds, we think we got this. We're gonna give them cans of tuna fish and bottled water, and we're just gonna deliver it, and everything's gonna be fine. Come back 2 weeks later, we're like, everybody's still hungry. They're not eating the fish or whatever. Come to find out that, number one, they never seen the can. They don't even know what's in the can. And number two, they don't eat they don't eat fish like that. So they would rather starve than eat whatever we were trying to give them. And so diversity is a mindset of like, if I'm going to go help someone, I might want to ask them how they perceive the problem, right? So that's diversity. And then equity is saying, look, it's different from equality. Equality means that everybody gets the same thing, right? They get what they deserve. You get what you deserve. But equity is you get what you need to thrive. And as a leader in a company, you have to think about that. Everybody needs something different. One person needs more money. Somebody else needs a little bit more time. Somebody else may need a different type of office situation. Everybody needs something. And as a leader, you have to think about what they need to thrive, right? It's not just we set the rules and everybody follows it. And then inclusion means that when you're at the table, right, you're elevating the voices, especially the voice that's not being heard, right? So for example, we at this table right now, we got this wonderful lady here, and I know that I'm hogging up all the time, right? If we were to do this correctly, we would make sure that she gets the time that she needs to speak. You understand? And so that's called that's equity, right? And that's inclusion. That's how that works. And so that's kind of explaining it all in a nutshell. That's how I would explain it to my students in a class. So there you
But
All
going
right,
back to
go
what you
ahead.
were saying, Dr. Thompson, going back to what you're saying, it's a big thing to actually know what your market is, right? And not just from a business perspective, but if I am a international conglomerate, I need to know what I'm working with. I can't push certain agendas, and my staff comes from different cultural backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, different orientations, different race. It's not going to work. Hence why diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility are vital in the workplace, in the education system, because we don't know. We claim to be a melting pot, right? And we are a melting pot because we have such a diverse population. But if we don't embrace those diversities, if we don't learn from those diversities, can we really call ourselves a melting pot? We're basically ignoring the fact that the same thing that makes us who we are, we're not honoring, we're not respecting, we're not, because like you said, here's the famine, people are still hungry. Why? We have a plethora of tuna here, but if they don't know what to do with it, you know, I, I give you one better. My family's West Indian. They come from the island of Jamaica. My spouse, everybody, my direct family, everybody. I'm born here, but the whole entire family's from the island of Jamaica. Um, I remember there's a professor out there at the University of Hawaii, and he's also Jamaican. And he did a film, like a YouTube video, and he said, "You would not imagine I found the ackee tree outside of the University of Hawaii, and it is blossoming with ackee, which is the native dish. Ackee and saltfish, the native dish of Jamaica, and it's a fruit that grows from a tree that we cook, and it's a breakfast dish." And he said it's to the point where it's falling off the trees. Now, in a community in the U.S. where there's a large percentage of Jamaicans, and I'm going to tell you where I'm going with this story, like New York, Florida, these places where it's concentrated, even Dallas here in Texas, a can of ackee runs you about $20 because it's so much in demand. This man said it's falling off of the trees. And everybody's in the comments like, what the? And fresh ackee just falling off the tree. And of course, he's got a large Jamaican followers, and it looks like blown. Like, what are you talking about? Get your bag, come back at night, pick off the tree, send us some. And he's like, the reason it's doing this is because the natives don't know what it is and don't know what to do with it. The birds are eating it, they know it can be eaten, but they don't know what to do with it. It's not natural to their culture. So here you go, a abundance of food right there, but you don't know what it is. So it's falling off the tree and almost rotting on the floor, something that in other places where there's high concentration, they're paying an arm and a leg for a can, and you have a plethora of it falling off of a tree. So here we go, just getting that knowledge, getting that understanding, right? Know who you're talking to and embrace that.
Thank you, Dr. James. I think one of the takeaways that I wanted to bring out before we bring it to a close is you was just talking, I think both of you mentioned it, the importance of not making diversity or DEI a check the box in our organization. And I think I agree with both of you in saying that that's what it's been made. It's okay, we do this once a year, we do it for 30 minutes, and then there are a lot of different perspectives when it comes to diversity training. And in my experience, one of the things that gets to me is I've watched diversity instructors who literally, let's say if they're given 30 minutes to talk about diversity, but they're done in 5 minutes. And I mean, could you explain diversity, the importance of it in 5 minutes? There are perhaps some ways that you could narrow it down and get straight to the point. However, I agree that we need to spend more time making sure that those that come to this training get an absolute understanding of diversity and what it means and why it's important, and the benefits, some benefits and advantages. So my question would be, to both of you. I'm the CEO in your organization, and I've just told you that every DEIA initiative is being shut down. We're not doing it anymore. What would you say to me in order to convince me to keep those initiatives afloat?
I would ask him to define what those initiatives are.
You would ask the CEO what the initiatives are?
Yeah, because I don't think anybody knows what DEI initiatives are besides just talking about race. But if we can, what are we going to do? We're going to kick out everybody that has a handicap has to go. We're not going to do any more accommodations for people who maybe need hearing help, or we don't, we no longer promote women anymore. We pay people differently now. So what are we getting rid of? Are we just getting rid of the racial parts, or are we doing away with everything? We're just going to go back to the 1800s, because we've only been this way
And
since
that's
the
where it comes
60s.
from.
We've only, like, women haven't had any agency since, they just got their stuff in like the 60s. So, I mean, are we going back to there? Because I just want to know what initiatives they are, because I think a lot of people don't really know what the DEI initiatives are, or what's going on, because there's a lot of DEI work going on that has nothing to do with affirmative action, and that gets frustrating. But there's a question that I was waiting for you to ask, and you didn't ask it. Yesterday, you asked me, will we ever achieve equality in the United States?
I didn't forget. That's the last question. So we're gonna pause. We're gonna come back to that after Dr.
Okay.
James.
So as far as the last question you had, I would ask him what initiatives he's talking about. Like, because I would want him to say all the things that have to do with race. That's what I want him to tell me, because I need to know, because if he's walking with a limp, I need to know that, we don't do elevators anymore. We don't, what I'm saying? I want to know, what are we actually getting rid of? That's what I want to know. What does he mean by that?
Great, great. I'm going to go to you, Dr. James, but I'm also going to ask you to take a look at this question. And as you talk about my question, for you to address that question right there as well. Go ahead.
And I planned on it. I saw it and I said, I'm going to go ahead and answer this. So I'm going to answer the question with a question, much like what Dr. Thompson was saying. I would ask the same questions, but I would make him understand, or her understand, hey, so while we're doing this, are we rounding up everyone who is female? Are we rounding up everyone who is Black, everyone who is Latino, everyone who is, part of that LGBTQ community, everyone who is of a different religious background? At what point do we draw the line of what we're not going to do and what we are going to do? Because it can't work where we want to diversify some things and not all things, where we want to include some things and not all things, right? That's where it becomes a gray matter. That's where it becomes a little sticky. You're either all in or you're all out, but you can't toe the line when it comes to that. And I think that's where the problem is coming in. So to answer your question, Alan Wilson, how do we apply it to present political immigration systems? Can we apply it to present political immigration systems? This is where it gets sticky, right? At what point do we say diversity, inclusion, equity, accessibility does work and doesn't work, right? Do we say, hey, if you came here and overstayed, but you've been an asset to the community, an asset to the country, then hey, you can stay. Or hey, you came here as a child and now you're DACA. So do I draw the line there? Because there's a lot of DACA kids that came here and have made great strides within the community, within the country. There's plenty that are serving right now, in capacity, and have gone on to become great symbols of citizenship and forces that, hey, look, I can do everything that I need to do in this realm and then some. Where is the line drawn? Where do you say I accept this but I don't accept that? I think that's where it becomes sticky. We need to start redefining what we're looking at here. I do think there's something to be said about immigrants and coming and making something of themselves and bringing their skill sets, bringing their ideologies to this country. Maybe because I am the product of immigrants, so I have a little bit more of a different perspective on what that looks like. Whereas someone else may say, no, I don't agree with it. But then where do you draw the line? Right? When is it not okay? Because our former president had a lot to say about immigration and who belongs and who doesn't belong. Least we forget that every wife you've taken is not from here and had an immigrant status. Or was it okay when they were here and diversity inclusion worked for them, but now doesn't work for anybody else? Do you see where that becomes a problem? So, as my supervisor, that would be my question. So, exactly what is it that we're trying to cut out? I need you to elaborate. Not just tell me we're getting rid of DEIA initiatives. What initiatives do you, and why? I need to know the why.
Yeah,
Why do
I
you
would,
feel like it's not?
yeah, I would bring my supervisor a printout of the statistics of the people who work there, and I would say this is what the workforce looks like based on what you are saying. This person here
Right.
has this going on. This person has this going on. Based on what you're saying, we're probably going to lose these guys eventually, because we're no longer promoting
Right.
those groups. We're no longer concerned about their well-being, whether they have health care, whether they feel like their job is means something to them. Are we okay? We're okay with the turnover. This is what it's going to cost to retrain someone that fits the identity that you like. We'll have to bring in 10 more of those, and to retrain them, this is what it's going to cost. I would just, if that's what it is, we just got to show them that. Honestly, I probably would just leave, though. I have to be honest with you. So I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. That's a hard question because is that really happening? I mean, I've heard it on the news, like people are saying, but is that really happening? I mean,
did we not look at when Governor DeSantis did what he did, and they filmed what those work sites look like after that for weeks?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when they canceled DEI,
months, work stoppage.
When they canceled DEI, though, did they close the Title IX too? Did they stop funding the women's basketball team? I'm just saying when they supposedly closed down all DEI, they didn't actually shut down DEI.
It can't be that it works one way and not the other.
No, they just shut down the word DEI. They didn't actually shut down DEI. They just shut down the idea of DEI. DEI was continuing on. You still needed to take care of student athletes. You still had to have academic advising. You still had to have Title IX. It's the law. You still had to have all these initiatives. You still had to have veterans care support. You still had to have all those things. Those are all DEI initiatives. They never went away. They just canceled the name DEI. Like maybe the office didn't say DEI on it, and maybe they fired, maybe one person left, but all that other stuff had to continue else they don't get their funding because it's all connected to their federal funding. That's the other thing that is kind of a problem.
This is where the issue came in. This is where the issue came in because he wanted to What DeSantis was trying to do was, hey, I'm going to take your funding away for putting these things in place. I'm going to take your funding away because you want to
Right, but he's
preach
not the
about
federal
diversity and
government
inclusion.
though.
The
It's like
problem
you
with
can't.
that is when it comes to
Yeah, but
right,
that's like
and that's what he needed to understand. This is bigger than you. This is bigger
no,
than
but
your personal ideology of what DEIA is.
that's like a. What I'm trying to say is the federal government is requiring all these colleges and universities to have these programs. There's no way that they can cancel. You cannot cancel the program. You can cancel the word DEI, but you can't cancel uh, helping people with disabilities. You can't cancel. Uh, Literally, Title IX supports LGBTQ students. You can't discriminate against anybody because of gender or anything. It's in the federal law. So it's not like you're canceling. What I'm saying is you're canceling maybe the guy who had the $300,000 a year job. He lost his job, but the DEI work still continues, just under a different label. I'm just saying. What I mean is we don't have to like throw the baby out with the bathwater and get so like riled up like, oh my God, they're canceling DEI. No, they're not canceling DEI. It's already locked into the laws. Maybe we can no longer do scholarships for Black people in certain schools, but I mean, I'm saying in general, I think that DEI is actually moving more. Like what I mean is, I actually feel like we're actually uh, getting more done rather than less. The fact that we're experiencing attack means that we're in the right place. If nobody was coming for us, that means we weren't getting nothing done. That's all I'm saying. I feel
Exactly.
like we're
And
getting
I think that snowball effect, right? That snowball effect. When you start looking at, yeah, we're gonna cancel, remember all of that was going on. Yeah, we want to cancel, get it out to schools. First, we're gonna do affirmative action, get rid of that. But then you started having people see we're not the sit down type anymore. There's too many of us now with doctorates, with masters, with higher level degrees, with just thought processes that I want to speak my mind. And I don't agree with this, and you're going to give me the why. I need to know the why. And when you start asking why, now we got other issues, right? Because when you start shouting cancel, 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 well, guess what? It's not one sided anymore. So if we're going to cancel this, we're going to get rid of legacy clause because that's your version of DEI, right? We're going to get rid of that. We're going to start getting rid of, and now you start dipping into other aspects that, hey, wait, we weren't talking about that. We weren't talking about that. Well, we're going to talk about all of it. If you're going to cancel one, you're going to cancel all, right? And you're not going to do that. Like you said, there's federal laws that protect these things.
I want to
And
say
when you
something. I just want to get this. I just want to get this out of the way because I think we're getting in the woods here. So the whole point of DEI is to help a person get to the level of thinking to where they're able to consider the historical context of a human being's experiences on this planet. Meaning that you don't deal with the person without looking at the historical context of what they're experiencing. And what we're experiencing right now is we're in equality right now. We hit equality, and that's a controversial thing. We're actually living in equality right now. But the problem is we've had 400 years of inequality. And the people that are in the role of equality want to engage in erasure of the historical context of how we got here, meaning you can no longer consider. They created the social construct of race as a way of identifying individuals and then oppressing them. And then we turn around and use race as a way to identify individuals in order to liberate them. And now that's where the problem is. So they got to use that for 400 years to oppress, and now we're trying to use it to liberate. And that's the problem. I didn't invent the social construct of race, but I have to go within that construct. I didn't invent the construct of gender roles and all those things, but we have to look at how gender plays into how people experience their life on this planet. So in a post-racial world, right? It's been suggested that we just erase everything, right? And DEI is not about equality. It's about equity, right? Equity is about giving everyone what they deserve. Equity is about equity. Equality is about giving everybody what they deserve. Equity is about understanding the historical cultural context of what someone experiences and giving them what they need to thrive. It's just it's a raising your level of thinking. For someone to say that they're getting rid of DEI is absurd. It's saying we don't want to raise. You're not going to change DEI. What I'm saying is, once you understand, once your level of thinking has changed, you never go back to that. So we can't really focus on trying to convert people who are against DEI. What we want to do is help the people who want to listen to understand where they reside in the society and how they can operate in a way that respects other people, other human beings. It's really about human beings relating to one another. And I think we've kind of, Trevor, he's on here talking about immigration. DEI is not about immigration. DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, it's not about immigration. DEI is about, who are those people that are immigrating human beings? That's DEI. DEI is saying, are you human? Okay, now that we agree that you're human, how should you be treated? And that's it. That's that. I'll leave it at that. Move on.
Thank you for that clarification, Dr. Thompson. Before we get out of here tonight, by the way, thank you. Awesome comments. I'm grateful for the conversation. I've got I've got two things. I'm going to give one to Dr. Thompson, and I'm going to give the other one to Dr. James. Dr. Thompson, I want you to address the question of equality that you brought up. And Dr. James, I want you to address the F, the E, the A, and the R, and then we're gonna go home. Starting with you, Dr. Thompson.
What am I addressing? Equality? Equality?
Yes.
I just spent about a half hour on equality. Just playing. I have an issue with equality because I really do feel like fairness is what got us in this mess. Do we treat our children fairly, or do we give them what they need? Honestly, do we treat our workers fairly? No. I mean, when you go to the office, there's, some people are getting more, some people are getting less, some people are friends with the boss. All DEI is trying to say is, look at these relationships. How are these relationships? What is the inequity in the relationship? Now, you see that you're giving your friend more opportunities because of that relationship. Maybe as a person, you need to pull back on that a little bit and begin to explore other areas in your work environment in order to uplift others. It's just a way of changing the perspective of a person. It's actually making you a better person. It's really about you becoming a better person. An equity mindset is really better for you. It's not, I really believe that all of this, discussion and fear of, what are we going to do in an equitable world? What are we going to do? They're getting rid of DEI because after DEI is gone, we'll no longer be able to think the way we think. They can just take it from us because. So I guess I think we need to do away with equality and really focus in on equity, because that's what we're trying to teach our 5-year-olds in preschool. We're trying to give them social emotional learning and help them to share and to do all those little things that we no longer teach them when they get to college.
Okay, and I'm going to dive into what you're saying. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. I'm gonna dive into what you're saying about FAIR, right? So for me, remember, I want you guys to take from this and remember that fear is a natural human emotion. We all have it, we all experience it. It's not the fear that we need to be afraid of, if I can put it in better terms. It's really how we handle it, right? So it's a emotion that we all experience. It's an emotion that we all go through, but it doesn't have to control our life. And I think that's where the problem comes in, when fear and the fear of what something can do starts to control our life. By reframing our perception of fear and embracing it as a catalyst for growth and empowerment, we can unlock our full potential and live a life of courage and purpose. One of the things that I like to look at is just the different aspects of fear. So things like forging every adversity and resolutely, transforming fear into a driving force of resilience and determination, instead of letting adversity defeat us, and use it as an opportunity to forge ahead with unwavering resolve and determination. Just using these things like uh, focusing, empowerment, action, resilience, right? Take the word fear and create something else. Break it down. Break down fear into accountable steps that empower you to move forward with focus and determination. By taking deliberate action and cultivating resilience, you can conquer fear, right? And reach the goals. That's where we want to get to. We want to get to what the goals are of diversity, inclusion, equitability, and accessibility. You don't want to just harp on just one aspect of that, but we want to get the collective. We want to get the whole. And fear is the driving force that's stopping us from getting that. So if we can overcome that fear, if we can take that fear from a negative and look at it in a positive sense, right? Like I started this and said, fear is what? Face everything and rise, or forget everything and run. It's better for us to face everything and rise. And that's what I would say about fear.
Thank you, Dr. James. I want to thank each of you for being here tonight. I want to thank all the viewers and listeners for being here. I hope that uh, the intent was clear. I hope that the information that was put out tonight, that it was received, that you gleaned what you needed to glean. And I hope that we can have a better understanding of what diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility is about. Like Dr. Thompson said, it's not about equality, but it's about equity. And so we want to get that message across to the viewers and listeners. And like Dr. James said, take some ownership and begin to be self-aware, and begin to have that desire to learn more, not only about oneself, but about everybody around you, so that it doesn't just become that check the box mentality, or I think I know everything there is to know about someone or something, but I'm willing to open up myself to learn and make this not a end state, but a lifelong journey. So real quick, before we leave, I want Dr. Thompson, you start, and then with you, Dr. James, real quick, tell everybody where they can find you and how they can, visit and get more information as it pertains to you in your profession.
Oh, you guys can find me on LinkedIn. You can just do search up Bliss Tunes, BLISSTUNES on LinkedIn. Or yeah, just search London Thompson on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's my preferred location.
Okay, thank you so much again, Dr. Whitey, for having me on your show. You can also find me on LinkedIn, or you can go to my page, www.justnarrative.com, and all my information is on there. You can find out more about what I do through that page as well, www.justnarrative.com.
All right, thank you. We made it through another episode of DrWhitty Today. It's just two, but there's going to be more coming your way. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for participating, and send any show ideas to drwhitty@yahoo.com. And you can also drop it in the comments during some of these live streams. We've got some awesome guests coming up, and we just look forward to being in your house. So thank you. I tell you what, wave goodbye. We We'll see you guys next time. DrWhitty Today. Take care.
Thank you for joining us on DrWhitty Today. We appreciate your time and viewership. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, subscribe. Your support keeps us going, and we can't wait to have you back. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, stay motivated, and stay tuned.